Now, in 6 through 8, there are more serious problems. The biggest problem, as far as I'm concerned, is the extremely poor job the standards do on ratios and rates. Now, later on in high school and even more so in college, this development of ratio and rates becomes the centerpiece of more advanced mathematics. So the failure here to develop a reasonable approach and to sensible explanation of what rates and ratios are is extremely serious. Additionally, grade 9 seems to be a grade where nothing is going on but the students are spinning wheels. I believe that what happened was that they had done so much in K through 7 that they had actually pretty much prepared the students to start in algebra in grade 8. But there were political reasons why that was not going to happen. And so they had nothing left that they could figure out to do in grade 8. So grade 8 is just sort of strange and empty. Well, that's 6 through 8. But 9 through 12 is where things really fall apart. And it shouldn't have happened. So I'm going to quote one of the three main authors, the three writing authors of the core standards in mathematics, Jason Zimba. I'm going to give some quotes from testimony of his in March 23rd, actually, of 2010, in front of the State Board of Education in Massachusetts. And to start with, and I'm just going to take the relevant pieces of it. He was testifying for a good 45 minutes, and so I don't want to read all that. So I'll just read what I think is the important stuff. The first thing he did is he defined what it means to be college ready according to core standards. Since the objective of core standards was to prepare kids for college and the workforce, you had to know what it meant to prepare kids for college. And so here's the exact verbatim statement that he gives. We have agreement to the extent that it's a fuzzy definition that the minimal college-ready student is a student who passed Algebra 2. Now, I will explain to you later why this is extremely questionable. The data that one gets is that basically there's a person who's passed Algebra 2 and no higher level math than that only has and he then starts college, or she starts college, only has a 1 in 3 chance of getting a 4-year degree in college. And I would say that 1 in 3 is not something we would consider college ready. So, in any case, that was his basic testimony there. Later, one of the members of the committee asked him to clarify what he meant. And Zimba stated, "In my original remarks, I didn't make the point strongly enough or signal the agreement that we have on this, the definition of college readiness. I think it's a fair critique that it's a minimal definition of college readiness." Now, remember that Jason Zimba is one of the two main authors of core standards. And when one of the main authors says this is a minimal definition of college readiness, one should pay attention. And now, the person who had asked him to clarify this interjected at this point. She said, "For some colleges." And Zimba responded by saying, "Well, for the colleges most kids go to, but not for the colleges most parents aspire to." In other words, the preparation in core standards was not for Ohio State or University of Michigan or, I guess, a flagship school in the SUNY system, but it was rather for a school more like a community college or an otherwise non-selective university. And then the questioner then continued and asked the question, not for STEM, not for international competitiveness. And Zimba responded, not only not for STEM, it's also not for selective colleges. For example, for UC Berkeley, whether you're going to be an engineer or not, you better have pre-calculus to even get in to UC Berkeley. And the questioner then interjected, right, but we have to think of the engineering colleges and the scientific pathway. Zimba added, that's true. I think the third pathway goes a lot toward that, but your issue is broader than that. Now, that's a very, very interesting statement. I looked into the March draft, and I found this quote-unquote third pathway as 7 lines, short lines, just indicating 7 topics that I suspect the authors were hoping to include in the final version. Because those 7 topics that were indicated there were the basic topics in a decent calculus course. So I think the intent of the authors was at that point to continue beyond Algebra 2 and to put in more material that would be relevant for more advanced and technical majors. But none of this exists in the final version of Core Standards. Core Standards stops with Algebra 2 in the final version. And the questioner then summarized her objections to this minimal definition by explaining this set of standards labeled as making students college ready, when the readiness level only applies to a certain type of college, and a low level of mathematical expertise wouldn't command much international respect in areas like technology, economics, and business. At this point, it was really remarkable. Zimba appeared to fully agree as he said, okay, thank you. And I think it was pretty clear that Zimba was intending and expecting to be able to write reasonable, acceptable standards that would even prepare kids for areas like STEM. But he wasn't allowed to in the end, and the focus of the core standards is on preparing kids for a community college. And I don't know what they say, a non-selective four-year university, but I'm not sure what that means. It might be something like a University of Phoenix. I just don't know. So this is the situation.